be here today. My name is Mina Hong. I am Senior Policy Associate at Michigan's Children. Michigan's Children is the only statewide organization here in Michigan that focuses solely on ensuring that public policies are made in the best interest of children from cradle to career, with an explicit focus on policy priorities that can reduce disparities in child and family outcomes. Oh, I am clicking ahead. Okay, sorry. So I'm actually going to be piggybacking off of Dr. Dale's words this morning. You've heard a lot over the last day and a half about really great high-quality programs that are helping families and children across our globe. You've heard about research that shows what families with young children really need to provide supporting environments. So now, what's next? So what? We have a panel of policy movers this morning and policymakers this afternoon. And how can we ensure that public policymakers understand all of this great information that you've learned here today and yesterday and Wednesday? And how can we make sure that they understand all of this great information, and how can we influence their decision making so that families with young children in Michigan, in the US, and around are truly getting what they need? So, I'm going to start with the story of Jenny. Jenny loves Legos, Duplos, Legos. She loves them. And she has her eyes set on this one set of Legos that she doesn't actually have. And she really wants them, but Legos, if you know, they're kind of expensive, right? They're not that cheap. So she's trying to figure out, how can I get mom and dad to buy me these Legos? So she comes up with a plan. She knows that mom more likely to say no to her, but she thinks mom is probably the one that makes those kinds of big decisions in the house. So she's going to target dad, because dad usually says yes to her. So she waits for dad to come home from work one day, and she's ready to, convince him to buy her these Legos. She sees that dad's actually pretty stressed out from his day at work, so she decides to let him come home and sit on the couch and unwind a little bit. Maybe she brings him a beer. And so she's gonna, wait, and she sees that dad, the stress from dad's day is starting to lift, and he's feeling a little more relaxed. And so Jenny approaches him, and she tells him about these Legos that she really wants. And Jenny tells dad, I think the Legos are gonna go on sale 4th of July weekend. I'm already starting to save my allowance, but I just don't think I'm going to have enough to buy these Legos myself. So if I save up my allowance, and when these Legos go on sale, if I pay for half of it, would you be willing to pay for the other half? And so Dad hears the story, and he thinks, all right, it's pretty reasonable, but he's a smart guy, and he knows what's good for their family, and so he says, as any smart husband and dad should say, let me talk to your mother. So later that evening, Dad talks to Mom, and Mom is not so sure, right? Jenny already has a ton of Legos. Why does she need this new set? And Dad kind of loves the fact that Jenny plays with Legos, and so he takes the case even further with Mom and tells her about all the great educational components that Legos have brought to Jenny's life. She talks about, how her math and physics skills have been developed since she started playing with Legos, and spatial awareness, and even some basic architectural concepts. And ultimately, Mom agrees, and Mom buys Jenny the Legos, or her parents buy her the Legos, and Jenny gets them. So what did you just hear here? I mean, Jenny was very strategic and was able to get a set of Legos. And policy advocacy is much the same thing. And just to reiterate here, I mean, Jenny is a child, and she was able to convince her parents and has those skills. And I guarantee that all of you guys in this room today have the skills already in place that you need to convince policymakers on what to do in the best interest of kids and families. You know the what, the who, the when, and the how, and I'm going to just walk us through that here. So first, the what. You all are here today because you're already experts in the early childhood field. You already know what programs work really well. You've probably even recognized the policy solutions or gaps that currently exist that result in some struggles for the families and kids that you serve. We heard some of it from Cheryl just now. So the what is really easy for you guys, and it's really just about making sure policymakers understand the what. Policymakers come from a variety of different backgrounds and careers, and they definitely are not all early childhood experts, and they need your help in figuring out the what. So who? This one is sort of simple, right? So Jenny knew that mom was her target and that dad could help her. She knew the who. Similarly, when we're doing our policy work, we have to figure out who can get us what we want and who can help us in that process, right? So if you have some great ideas about how to make Head Start stronger, for example, you're not going to talk to your local city council person about it. You might talk to your member of Congress about it, since Head Start is a federal program. So even understanding whether a policy strategy that you have in mind or a program you have thoughts about can be impacted at the federal level, state level, or local level is helpful. And also knowing who sits on key leadership positions, who might be the types of committees that you want to target for your programs and your policies can help. And then like Jenny, targeting dad, understanding who can help you in that process, who can be your ally. You know, in the early childhood space, you've already done a lot of great work building allies across business and prosecutors and sheriffs and the like, and so figuring out who can our allies be and then building on those as well. So the when. Jenny, she saw that when dad got home from work, that wasn't the best time to target him. She should let him unwind a little bit. So she knew strategically when to target dad. I think with policymakers, the when is actually all year round. I know if you get messages, emails from Michigan's Children or other advocacy organizations, you know, we always send out those action alerts. Call your elected official now, they're about to make a decision tomorrow. And of course, those touch points are critically important, but also if you talk to them throughout the year about the issues that matter to you and help them build their foundational understanding of the issues that you know about, that can actually make for a much better advocacy strategy. Actually, right now is a great time in Michigan. The legislature just wrapped up the state budget, and now they're going to be home maybe more in the summer if they're not working on roads. And so, you know, figuring out, you know, talking to them when they're home in their district, and the same is true for the members of Congress, they'll be in their districts more this summer. Talking to them now and showing them your programs or introducing them to some families is really helpful. And then, you know, when those critical moments do come where we send you with the action alert that says, call your elected official now, you know, they'll already know who you are and know where you're coming from. And in fact, if you've done your job really well, they might even turn to you when they are about to make a critical decision and say, what do you think about this bill? And then finally, the how. So in addition to knowing who to target and when to target them, you have to know how you're going to deliver your message, right? Jenny was smart, and she knew that if she talked about Legos going on sale and that she would pay for half, that could be a good message for dad. And dad actually took that message one step further with mom and talked about the educational case of Legos. And a good way of understanding how to deliver your message is to talk about framing, right? Because if your facts don't fit your target's frame, it's actually going to be your facts that are rejected and not your policymaker's frame. So a quick and easy example here is one about cats, right? So I am a cat lover. I think when somebody says cat, I think, you know, furry, cuddly family member. Somebody else might be allergic to cats, and so they won't have the same reaction. Or somebody in the medical profession might even think of a CAT scan. So really understanding people's, right, where they're coming from. You know, somebody might have a different strategy to convince me to adopt a cat than somebody with an allergy to cats. And the same is true with elected officials. So understanding sort of their backgrounds, experiences, and frame of references can help. Easy strategies are, you know, getting their newsletter, following them on social media, seeing them speak at community forums. But again, if you're targeting them all year round and getting to know them all year round, you get to learn where they're coming from about the issue that you're talking to them about and what their frame of reference is. And then you can really hone in on your messaging and how you're crafting that. So, what does that mean for us today, right? So there's still a lot of work to be done in early childhood policy and budget decision making here in Michigan and in the nation. And so, you know, I know that you all are experts. You already know the what. I'm sure you are all savvy enough to figure out who can give you what you want. And I just made the case that when should really be happening all year round. We should be targeting them all year round. And finally, you know, you're at this global summit, right? So you're with academics, service providers, families, policy movers and shakers. And so, you know, I'm sure you can think about the best way of, you know, how you can develop a crafty message and who you can enlist in your efforts to move public policy. And so I leave you with this reminder. If Jenny can convince her mom and dad to buy her that set of Legos, I'm sure that you all can also convince your policymakers to make decisions in the best interest of families with young children, and I hope you will join me and Michigan's Children and all of our partners in those efforts. Thank you.